Welcome back, lazy gamers. Welcome back to Civ6. We will start a new series as Ambiorix of Gaul. If there is one leader in this game who can plan for war and be at war pretty much for the entire game, it is Gaul. And we will set this game up to exploit exactly that. In the early days when I was learning to play Civ, I played Gaul a lot. I played Ambiorix quite a bit. And I was so locked into the unique playstyle that was needed. I must have played tons and tons of games, winning some, losing some, but these were always at lower difficulties. And I think the only few games that I played as Ambiorix at TD difficulty, I don't think I ever won a domination victory. And I want to try this new series here where we will try to do a full-on domination victory, just taking everyone else out. We will get into the specifics of what makes Gaul special, but the way the games play is typically midway through the game, you are so well set to pivot into a culture victory or a science victory that it makes it harder to persist with Dom and to get the domination win. Ambiorix is a fantastic leader, and because way to play Ambiorix is so unique, I'm going to make the first part of the series will be a guide on how best to play Ambiorix. So let's briefly talk about Ambiorix and his abilities. The main ability is the King of the Eburones, where your civilization gains culture equal to 20% of the unit's cost when a non-civilian unit is trained. So basically you're rewarded with culture as long as you keep spamming and training units. And importantly, all melee, anti-cavalry and ranged units receive a +2 combat strength for every adjacent unit, which means you want to have a stack of units grouped together, a roving band of units walking around taking down neighbors. That's pretty much the MO here. +2 combat strength for every adjacent unit plays very well in the early game when your unit strengths are somewhere in the 20s or possibly in the 30s. That +2 can add up really quickly. It does fade into the late game, but that's when your units are much stronger overall. Their base strength is much higher, so that +2 may not really mean much, but hopefully by then you have this game squared away. The main Gaul trait is the Hallstatt culture, where mines will give you a minor adjacency bonus. When you build a mine, you will culture bomb up to the 3rd ring, and more importantly, you get a +1 culture on building the mine. So, mines are everything here. Basically, wherever you want to build a mine, wherever you can build a mine, you want to build a mine. A limitation of the Hallstatt culture is specialty districts do not give you the minor adjacency that you normally give. So clustering districts together is not really a thing with Gaul. In fact, clustering districts around mines is probably the way you want to plan your districts. But like the government plaza still gives you the +1, but it doesn't give you the adjacency for other districts clustered around it. Where you place districts down may not be as important as having the districts placed somewhere. And hopefully you have mine-rich lands. One major limitation of the Gaul Hallstatt culture is that you cannot place any districts next to the city center, except for like aqueducts and canals. The non-specialty districts you can, but specialty districts like your campuses and holy sites and oppidums, theater squares, whatever, you cannot place them next to the city center. Now this is a limitation and it does create an interesting challenge. But basically when you are settling cities, especially your capital, you have to be cognizant of the fact that you will not have an option to place down a district immediately in your first ring of your city. Like a common example here, if you see a situation where you can settle on a geothermal fissure, you can probably see an excellent spot for a campus. But with Gaul, you have to know that if you settle on that geothermal fissure, you can't put a campus immediately in the first ring of that city. Just something to think about. It makes city planning a little difficult, but as long as you know what you're up against, you can plan for it and play your game. The Gaysete is the unique unit. It is the warrior replacement. Gaysetes are actually expensive to build, but they're really strong. And when they fight units that have a higher base combat strength, they get a +10 combat strength against it, which means they will stay highly relevant against swordsmen. They do start to fade when you go up against man-at-arms, but they will stay relevant for quite a while, at least until you get your own man-at-arms. And interestingly, they have a +5 combat strength versus district defenses, which means if you have a neighboring city-state that you don't want to friend, you want to take them out, having like 4 5, at least 4, I think. Four is, as long as you're willing to lose a few, 4 Geisete are more than enough to take down a city-state. On deity difficulty, this can be a hit or miss. On lower difficulties, I know I've done this with 3. It definitely helps to prioritize getting masonry sooner rather than later, just so that you can get a battering ram to pair with your Geisete. Any conquest or any war that you are in, it just makes the game so much easier. On lower difficulties, not so much. You can pretty much get masonry at leisure, if that's the case, if you're playing at lower difficulties. Yeah, but the Geisete is an extremely strong unit. The Oppidum is the unique industrial zone that Gaul can build, and it is actually very cheap to build, and you should pretty much prioritize it as soon as you have the tech unlocked. The most important thing with the Oppidum is that the moment your first Oppidum is built, you basically get the apprenticeship technology for free, which means the moment you build an Oppidum, your Geisete are free to be upgraded into man-at-arms, which is probably the most overpowered strat in this entire game. The Oppidum district is also defensible. It does, just like encampments, it gives you walls. So again, situational, but just like the encampment, it can give you a level of security by knowing that as long as you build walls, your Oppidum can also defend against enemies. The placement of the Oppidum is interesting actually. The best spot for Oppidums are naturally like right smack in the middle of mines, any mines that you have. But you do get a +2 production adjacency from quarries and from strategic resources. So if you see a spot where you see 2 or 3 strategic resources, maybe with the potential to put down some quarries somewhere, identify those spots, and that's pretty much where your Oppidum goes. You can get like an Oppidum that has a +6 or a +8 adjacency really easily. It's not hard to do. You have a spot, totally do it. Which really means that when you're ready to place your Oppidum, and we are going to go into a bit of a strategy discussion here, but the moment you know that you are ready to place an Oppidum, of course you can see where your iron is, but you may not know where your horses are. So if you see, let's say you are lucky and you have 2 iron in your empire, an Oppidum, if it can be slotted between those 2 irons, is giving you an automatic +5 Oppidum, plus other things if possible. But every once in a while I've seen situations where you may have a combination of horses and iron in a way that would give you a superior Oppidum, which you wouldn't know until you unlocked horseback riding. Getting to the text to unlock the Oppidum, which is on the bottom of the tech tree, is important, but it might even be important enough to get horseback riding to know where your horses are. Now let's talk about 2 strats or 2 approaches that any Gaul player must take. So first one, I'll qualify it as a science approach. And typically this begins with getting 1 or 2 Geisete. You get 1 at the start of the game, but you probably want to build maybe 1 or 2. And the number 1 priority for these Geisete is to scout your immediate lands and try to find 3 barbarians so that you can boost bronze working. You are opening with mining at the start of the game, and you want to be going into bronze working as soon as possible. And boosting bronze working requires you to kill 3 barbarians, and the sooner you get it done, quicker you will get to bronze working, because bronze working unlocks iron. Well, if you see iron in your lands, you know that you want to get a builder and improve it to unlock iron working, because that's pretty much the next tech you want to get to. But if you don't have iron in your land, or if you don't see it within your borders, you do want to get a settler and locate iron somewhere nearby to settle for it. It's a must. It's pretty much one of those things that the quality of what you are settling does not matter as much as the reason you're settling for. You need that iron ASAP, and you should get it no matter what. Because if you boost iron working and you get to iron working quickly, you can start building an Oppidum, and once you finish that, your Geisete are free to be upgraded into man-at-arms. So if you do see a game that's going in that direction, the one limiter in this case would be the gold that you need for the upgrades. So generally speaking, I prefer to stock up on gold and only use it to maybe buy a settler or a builder if I need to. The other strat is on the culture path, where you want to beeline craftsmanship as soon as possible. Don't worry about boosting it, just get there as soon as possible. Typically by the time you have built your 3rd Geisete, it should be unlocked. And the moment it is, you definitely want to plug in the Agog card and crank out faster Gazetei. The Gazetei are expensive to build, so know that it's not quick to get these guys going off the ground. But the Agog card is pretty much invaluable for you to get more Gazetei faster. Know that when you build your first Gazetei, you're going to get a culture bump. Usually the first Gazetei will unlock Code of Laws, and the second one will definitely unlock Craftsmanship for you. If you're lucky, both these things, the science push and the culture push, will happen simultaneously. But you do need a little bit of RNG help. You do need a neighbor nearby to war. So if you are isolated without anybody near you, maybe there is a city-state. If there are like a couple of industrial city-states, they may look interesting or viable to take down in the early game, but industrial city-states are very, very useful in the mid and late game for Gaul because you will have a lot of oppidums. So typically you want to leave the industrial city-states alone. You need someone nearby to war into, otherwise this strat will fail. Now, one thing Gaul does decently well is that your culture will stay competitive with the AI even in the early game, even on deity difficulty. It may not surpass the culture leader, but it will stay competitive because you are getting that one culture from every mine you build. Plus, you're getting culture from every unit you're spamming. So typically, once you get your government, you should be setting your sights on getting as early to nationalism as possible. To get there, you can take multiple paths. You can dip into divine right and get monarchy. You can go top of the tree and get mercenaries or get military training. You can follow whichever path, but essentially all of them really culminate in nationalism. And after nationalism, it's pretty much mobilization. Beyond that, you want to head for fascism because that is pretty much the best way to keep your war momentum going. On the science path, you will be so heavily weighted to be at the bottom of the tech tree that astrology, writing, all the coastal stuff that is at the top of the tree is pretty much irrelevant. Or even if you get it, it's going to be very, very late. So as Gaul, don't think about getting a religion. Just ignore it, especially on deity. Maybe on lower difficulties you can try and get a religious game going. But on lower difficulties, just ignore it. If you plan to build the Oppidum as your first district, and if you are looking at going on a full-on war with maybe one or more neighbors, then in my experience, getting a great general is really, really useful. So I would say an Oppidum and an encampment, in whichever order, can actually play very well to your benefit if this is going to be a war game. In fact, I would go so far to say that no other districts matter. Everything else will come from conquests. Now, interestingly, depending on your game, you can ignore getting a Pantheon. I would strongly recommend try to get just enough faith to unlock a Pantheon. You're not trying to get a religion, but getting a Pantheon might have benefits because something like God of Craftsmen or building military units faster, or maybe even like an early settler or an early builder could really do wonders for your game. But beyond that, faith will not play a major part, at least in the early game and into a good chunk of the mid-game. Another side effect for Gaul, and purely based on how many Oppidums you will have. So Gaul is a great domination civ that can pivot into any victory condition simply because of the great engineers that you can recruit. Like your Oppidums will get built quite early and you should expect to have a couple at least before your rivals even have one. So it is fair to expect that you will get many great engineers. In fact, some of the key wonder building great engineers are ones that you would most likely recruit. And there is also a chance that depending on how wide your empire is, you can get all the great engineers in the game. Some of the late era great engineers give you a massive boost for a science win, some for a culture win, which is why, even on deity difficulty, if you get a strong enough start, war, even if you start off with a lot of war in the beginning, it is quite easy to pivot into a non-domination victory. But this series, this one that I'm going to try, we are going to push for exclusive dom. Yeah, this is a deity game, standard speed. As far as the map is concerned, I'm leaning towards a Pangea, but I don't mind a map that gives me some level of a coastal game. So I'm gonna pick straight continents and islands and the standard size map. Let's look at our game modes here. So what I do want to do here is definitely try to have a lot of land. So we're going to try and raise the sea level here. We will play a legendary start. We will play abundant resources. just so that there is no other limiting factor to our end goal. But outside of that, I think everything else I'm going to keep it as. Yeah, yeah, all natural wonders I'm okay with except for the Bermuda Triangle. It is the only one I don't want for sure. Yeah, everything else is default. Now, because we are playing with low sea level, I definitely want to add 2 more AI players. So this is a standard size map which allows for 8 civs, but we are playing with 10 civs. As far as game modes are concerned, I think we'll keep all the game modes off. I'm tempted to keep the Barbarian Clans mode on. But yeah, let's try keeping all of them off and just see if we can get a basic ABC war game going here. Yeah, 12 city states, everything else is standard. But for now, this seems to be... Yeah, I think this seems to be the right mix for what we want to do. So I rolled into this start, and this game looked fantastic from the get-go. We met 2 culture city-states, we met Nanmadol and we met Kumasi, and our spawn was close to lakes, which means that we would probably have a few more cities on lakes. So if you choose Nanmadol, you pretty much get 2 culture for every district. And yeah, this would have been a very, very strong start. But unfortunately, I don't think there is a land bridge this way. There is this narrow channel of water. As decent and good, this is definitely an above average start, but this is not a start I would want to play. The way Gaul works, or Gaul works best, is when you have early war targets. Because the Gaisete on deity difficulty especially will not stay relevant for too long. Their relevance will start fading pretty much around the turn 50, 60 mark. We're not going to get any water text to embark yet, which means that any army we are taking, we are sending them this way. And we'll probably have to Suz Kumasi in the process, because all Kumasi has to do is grow to one of these styles and our channel is blocked. Yeah, this is not the best of setups to push into or do any war game, because we are blocked off from anybody else on 3 sides. And we have only one direction to go with one narrow choke point. Or we got to just switch gears and play a very different game here. But it won't be a war game. That's the problem. And then we rolled into this one. This did not look like a strong start like the last one. But it had potential, and there could have been... I needed some RNG help, and I may have overextended myself. And yeah, things did not end well here at all. When you play deity games, no matter who you play as, however strong your civ may be, this can always happen. Losing is part of the game, and on deity it'll happen more often than not. And then on this reroll, we have landed a god start, and you bet this is the one we're gonna play. Strong Yosemite. So Yosemite by itself is not important for Gaul. The yields, however, are going to be fantastic, because we have 2 copper deposits that I see that are going to become mines and stay mines until the game ends. We have a quarry, so I definitely want to free up at least 1 tile next to the quarry for a possible oppidum. Yeah, so many options here. And this is definitely the start I'm going to play. This is a god start if there is one. And yeah, I got to figure out how I'm going to make a Dom game of this, but this is the one I'm going to play. So the next video is going to be the first in this series, and we're going to start off from this point, and I'll probably talk through some of my settled options, but yeah, I mean, this is it. I think this is going to be a great game. But until next time, thank you for watching and stay tuned for the next one. This is going to be a gem.